What are my thoughts on Rubber's Lover? Incredible feature. I am full of praise for 964 Pinocchio and likewise for this film, one of two immensely classic films which director Shozin Fukui would helm over his career. Two of my favourite Japanese movies of the 90s, well, maybe just two of my favourite movies from the 90s in general. Hopefully the screen caps sell it for you enough, but let me quickly address the fact that Rubber's Lover is presented in black and white as opposed to the colour of 964 Pinocchio. I praised 964 Pinocchio in my upload upon it for breaking out of that black and white mould which films like Eraserhead would appear to enforce upon the likes of the subsequent films, including Tetsuo the Iron Man Begotten, Revan Aronofsky's Pi a little bit later. Now Rubber's Lover figured it would be better off if presented in black and white, and I think I can gauge a little why. I proposed a situation in my video for 964 Pinocchio wherein that film was released in black and white and how restrained and held back it may feel by comparison. The extent of that movie's wild ambitions needed colour to fully express to us the scale of the film's exploratory aggressive weirdness. Whereas Rubber's Lover being on the topic of human experimentation, clinical scientists exploring their cold sadism, a series of almost Unit 731-esque bone-chilling wickedness, it being in colour would have seemed exploitative into glorying, revelling in the morbidity of it all, perhaps a bit too much like the 1988 film based on the evils of Unit 731, a Hong Kong film titled Men Behind the Sun. I think Rubber's Lover benefits from being shot in the black and white of a series of scientific observations, notes, unemotional textbooks, much as Hitchcock's Psycho benefited from being shot in black and white and then subsequently feeling almost a bit like the perhaps psychology textbooks or research medical reports which highly inform the scenarios, pathological responses in the spectrum of traditionally aberrant human behaviour boldly displayed throughout the screenplay/runtime of that particular cinematic triumph of 1960. Rubber's Lover isn't about reveling in the brazen episodes of extreme human behaviour, no more than Hitchcock's Psycho was, so much as demonstrating it for the sake of a cold, clinical curiosity. Perhaps compare this with, for instance, the use of colour in, I think, every single work of the so-called New French Extremity bloc. I'm not criticising their use of colour in and of itself, or that particular film movement in and of itself, though they were clearly glorying in the upsetting revulsion which results from their displays of morbid violence. They were less overtly clinical cinematic studies, even if they were, as in the case of the Japanese possible homage from 2007, A Bao Q, directed by Naoki Kato, or the Haneke films which he was inspired by, and possibly superseded, I may potentially argue. When these events are depicted in black and white, indeed when any situation is depicted in black and white, suddenly a certain aesthetic flatlining is invoked, and all human events may be depicted upon the same plane of democratized, objectified understanding. Think about what black and white does to display the events, the horrifying and intensely repulsive historical events within Spielberg's Schindler's List, the transitions to black and white within Rolf de Heer and Peter Jiggear's 2006 major classic film titled Ten Canoes, or how it animates the aforementioned Hitchcock classic Psycho long after he had released most of his films in colour following 1948's feature Rope. On Hitchcock, we could also cite The Wrong Man, Strangers on a Train, or I Confess, released after Rope and yet decided by Hitchcock to be shot in black and white rather than colour, and I think all of us would agree to greater effect than had they been doused in that iconic Robert Burke's visceral Technicolor, let's say. One of the very best films of 1996, I do strongly feel, along with Secrets and Lies, Trainspotting, Fargo, Gamera 2, Attack of Legion, and maybe Taiko Moon also. Anyone with an interest in Rubber's Lover should surely not be disappointed in it, unless pedantic to the point wherein it is genuinely confusing why they even like films in the first place.